Medigroup Physician Services presents Medigroup's Frank's Fast Five with healthcare executives, produced by Bridget Wilson and Carrie Peters. Today's guest is Dr. Ananth Ravi, President and Chief Executive Officer for Molli Surgical. Now, here's your host, Medigroup's Frank Gillespie.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Medigroup's Frank's Fast Five. Today, I have the privilege of talking with the only medical physicist ever to win the Human Touch Award and one of the inventors of the localization technology that we'll expand upon during our conversation. Dr. Ananth Ravi is the president and CEO of Molli Surgical, as well as a co-founder of the organization. Dr. Ravi, it is an honor and pleasure. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Frank. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's an honor to have you, and your background and the things I've read about you are just fantastic, and I'm excited for our viewers to have a chance to learn a little bit more about you and Molli Surgical as well. So I promised you I wouldn't waste your time. I know you're a busy man, so I'm going to just jump right into those questions if that's okay with you.
Sure, this should be great.
Okay, great. Ananth, can you tell us a bit about your background in the healthcare industry and your overall role at Molli Surgical?
Sure. So right now I am one of the co-founders and the CEO of Molli Surgical. And my journey to creating Molli is, it's interesting. It's not your standard type of journey. I'm a medical physicist by trade. I know you mentioned that in the opening. And what that is an allied health professional that's responsible for ensuring safe, effective delivery of radiation treatment for patients. And so I was responsible for a very large radiation oncology program in my facility. And the way Molli kind of originated out of that was at the early start of my career, it was all about getting in more dose and curing patients was the focus. Until one day I had the fortune of being a part of a patient family advisory council where patients come in with their families and they talk about their experiences. And this young lady spoke about her journey through breast-conserving surgery and her breast cancer journey. And she talked about her experience with such descriptors that you imagine that just happened to her the day before, but in fact happened 2 years prior. So you can see the level of just that history and the historical storytelling was so profound and poignant that you knew this impacted her life in a profound way. And she talked about wire-based localization for breast-conserving surgery. So just to give you a little background, the patient comes, she fasted the night before, she came in first thing in the morning around 7:30, and she had a hooked wire placed in her breast in radiology. And it looks very much like a fishing hook, like it looks like a barbed wire, and part of it extends out of the breast. And then she was waiting in hospital for around 4 to 5 hours for her surgery. So she was in pain, discomfort, and she actually ended up fainting. So she's telling us all of this story. And so I was immediately, like this, anybody would be compelled and moved hearing her story. And so we were compelled to come up with a different solution. But that was actually a real turning point in my career, because up until that point, I mentioned like getting dose, cure, like it was everything. And then I realized that a patient's journey through treatment is often just as important as the treatment itself, because it creates this color and it adds the storytelling. And they may not remember much, but they'll remember their experience in the treatment for the rest of their life. So if we can do anything to improve that experience, I found it to be incredibly profound and impactful. And so that's how Molli came to be. We came up with a different solution to completely change that. I was still practicing for a while, and then it started to get commercialized, and here we are at Molli Surgical.
Oh, that's just fantastic. And what a great story. And the fact that you recognized, and I mean, as you would, as a physicist, the traumas that the lady was going through. So fantastic story and a fantastic start. And question number 2 is some background information related to Molli Surgical and its products. And you've touched on that a little bit, maybe a little bit more about that and a little bit more about some of the products that Molli has developed.
Absolutely. So to just, Molli Surgical as a company, our primary focus is trying to make precision surgery simpler. And our design philosophy and our ethos around the company is focusing incredibly, not just focusing, obsessing over making things that are just reliable and easy to use. And partly from my past experience, I have a lot of experience with introducing new technologies into clinical practice, and I know the impact of inexact design of medical devices and how that can sometimes cause treatment errors or unforeseen outcomes, and then the burden on patients and having to communicate that. So as a company, we take it very seriously and we obsess over these details to make products that are just easy to use, so it doesn't really put burden on caregivers and the system, and also just you can count on that when you need it most. And so the product we came up with was a localization device. It's a wire-free localization device. So there's no annoying wire that's protruding out of the breast. What we implant is instead a tiny little magnet the size of a sesame seed. You implant it in the breast. It can be done up to 30 days prior to surgery. So basically giving the patient full autonomy over their schedule now. They're not having to come in and spend an entire day in this really arduous journey. They can come in for a 10-minute procedure where they get this implanted, and it's very much like drawing blood. It's not an invasive or intensive procedure. Perfect. And then they come back for the surgical procedure. It'll start on time, they have it, and they're done. So it's very much a smoother journey for the patient. But in radiology now, they implant this tiny little permanent magnet that can mark the smallest of lesions. It's the smallest marker on the market right now. And we know that breast cancer is shrinking with screening. So we're able to localize these ever smaller lesions. And then in surgery, the surgeons actually have a wand and a tablet that's much like a GPS system. So now they can find it intraoperatively in 3D and remove it with incredible precision. And it allows them to plan the best surgical path to the tumor to enable really good cosmetic results. They can hide the scar, they can do a number of sophisticated surgical techniques. So that's the technology in a nutshell. We have a disposable, which is a tiny marker, and then a capital unit, which is the wand and the tablet. That's for use.
That's absolutely amazing. And we've talked about the breast. Are there other areas of the body that this technology can be used? Or are you progressing more into that for other areas?
So, we've started off in the breast group, but this concept of linking radiology into surgery is not new. Like the beauty of radiology nowadays is we have sub-millimeter precision with all the imaging equipment that we have. We have functional imaging with PET and sophisticated MRI. So you can see things in radiology that you can't see in surgery. And surgery, for the most part, with even the most sophisticated robots, is still limited by sight and touch. So how do you link radiology into surgery? Well, you mark something. And that's where Molli comes. You can mark it and then remove it. So we've done some very fascinating cases where surgeons have actually been approaching us where I would love to do this. And we've done several colorectal cases where they have removed solitary lymph nodes from recurrences. We've done some thoracic applications. We even had a scenario where there was a lovely 9-year-old girl that fell on a bag of glass that had a tiny fragment lodged in her calf, and then they were able to, they couldn't see it on ultrasound very well, so they marked it with Molli and were able to take it out with minimal scarring to that young girl's leg. So there's some really profound and wonderful use cases that really impact patients' lives. We're happy to see that now that we're out, we're soft tissue indicated, so you can use it in any soft tissue. And our wonderful physicians and care providers are finding new novel use cases that I didn't even imagine when we first set out on this journey.
That is fascinating. I'm riveted by how unique it is. It's very neat. Ananth, how do you think your products will benefit the members of MediGroup? We're excited to have it on contract, and just your viewpoint on how that will benefit. And, some of it I think you've already touched on, but maybe more specifically, some of the classes of trade or the specialties, I should say, that would have use for this.
Absolutely. I think, the nice thing about technologies such as these is that it actually touches on all stakeholders in care journey. Definitely the patients. We've kind of hopefully articulated how we can we've had the ability to influence and improve a patient's journey through the care. But in terms of physicians, we spend a lot of time on ergonomics of design. So one of the things that are particularly important to us is reducing that physical load and that cognitive load. So our wands actually have been made for all physicians. We have a very slender handle, so like it's very easy to hold for even small hands, and a tapered tip so that it can fit into like tiny incisions. But our tablet and interface, we have spent a lot of time coming up with an interface that's not overly complicated, really easy to use and intuitive. It provides just the right amount of information and not too much. We're all nowadays used to having a barrage of information on us at all times, that it's nice to just kind of have a simple, and then to even take it one step further, ORs are noisy. There's a lot of noise in the background. So we've had a concert pianist program the sound on our system. So it actually has, and we've heard really good things from physicians on the pleasing tones of the system. So that's one piece of just reducing the burden. The whole purpose is to reduce the burden. And the other piece is for the system. For in radiology and surgery, right now, if you're a wire-based system, radiology is connected to surgery. You put the wire in, the patient's in radiology, and surgeons are waiting for radiology and that patient before they can start surgery. So they're linked. And so if anything happens in radiology, surgery gets delayed. What we've shown with Molli is now you decouple them. So radiology can optimize their workflow independent of surgery. And we've seen as much as 40% increase in capacity in both departments just from decoupling and separating these things.
That's huge.
It's massive. And so they've been saying things like surgeons are starting on time and putting in more cases, and radiologists create a day where they can basically implant like 2 weeks worth of patients in a single day. And so the efficiencies and ways to optimize their workflow suddenly becomes, kind of limitless.
Absolutely. And the concert pianist involvement is rather unique too. I mean, that's amazing that that thought process went into it as well. You've covered all aspects.
I thank you. I appreciate that. Our team definitely sees the value in these details because at the end of the day, they really do matter, right? They matter in reducing risk and burden on everybody.
Absolutely. So with all of that said, which is exciting all in itself, looking towards the future, what's next?
We are a company that really believes that healthcare professionals deserve partnership in industry, where not only do we meet their needs today, but they also look to us to kind of anticipate their needs of tomorrow, right? So I think one of the things we are trying to do well is innovate and set the pace of innovation for a lot of the healthcare progression in our particular space. And to that end, we have a beautiful team of brilliant minds that are they've kind of committed to creating a new clinically significant innovation every 12 to 18 months at a constant cycle. So we're introducing new products, and like we talked about it a little bit too. Like right now, we started off in the breast space.
Right.
We're looking to expand out of the breast space. Some areas are thoracics and colorectal as being exciting avenues of exploration. And there are other opportunities that are coming up where we're expanding out of surgery and going into other fields. So instead of just being Molli Surgical, we might be Molli Medical in the near future.
Very exciting. So really and truly, the key words are stay tuned.
Yes, that's right.
I love it though. So believe it or not, we're down towards the last question and you get the last few words. So Ananth, what message do you want to leave with our members? And also, are there any special hobbies you might like to share?
Oh, interesting. So in addition to, I think we've kind of we are passionate and we're obsessed over patient experience and reducing the burden on healthcare systems.
That's very
exactly. So reliability and confidence. But we are really another strong kind of motivating factors of amplification, amplifying the efforts of your members, of our partners and customers. So clinical efforts through innovation and developing new technologies, but also we recognize in this day, like marketing their practice, patient education, and we have a formidable PR engine that can help drive and attract growth for our customer partners as well and they can benefit from our growth and mutually grow together. But in the end, I think it is very much stay tuned. We're Molli Surgical. We're really thrilled to be a part of this ecosystem and honored to have already contributed to the improvement of care for over 5,000 patients across North America. And this is all within a year. And we look forward to being a bigger player and hoping we can be your partner as well.
Sounds like you're on the path to that. It's very exciting, and congratulations on all that. Your enthusiasm is just, I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Frank.
Last thing, were there any special hobbies you might like to share? And no pressure.
No. I mean, yes. Outside of like obsessing over these details and stuff, I think like simple things like spending time with the family. But I am an avid biker. I don't like slowing down very much, so very recently I got into a small little tip and broke both my wrists in a small accident because as opposed to using the brake, I decided to try and steer out of the way, but my skill did not match my intent, and so I'm recovering. But like biking is one of my big avid interests for sure.
Very, very awesome. It's probably safer to stick to the OR. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I really, honestly, it's an honor. I appreciate your time, your knowledge, your background, your enthusiasm, and we at MediGroup are extremely excited about working with Molli Surgical. So we look forward to continuing our journey with you, and look forward to the future and new things to come.
This has been MediGroup's Frank's Fast 5 with healthcare executives, produced by Bridget Wilson and Carrie Peters, and hosted by Frank Gillespie. Special thanks to Dr. Ananth Ravi, President and Chief Executive Officer for Molli Surgical. This has been a presentation of MediGroup Physician Services.